the hidden roots of pleasing others. When saying yes is a survival strategy, the smile that hides the storm. It starts with a smile, not the kind that reflects joy, but the kind that conceals tension. The kind of smile we offer when our stomach knots in disagreement, when our thoughts scream no, but our lips still say yes. This is not simple politeness. This is a reflex, a trained response woven deep into the nervous system, shaped by years of unspoken rules, emotional transactions, and the quiet terror of disconnection. People-pleasing isn't a quirky personality trait. It's not just being nice, it's often a trauma response. When we learn, early in life, that being ourselves causes friction, when truth leads to punishment, when disagreement invites rejection, we begin to adapt. We mold our tone, our words, our posture, even our dreams to avoid rocking the boat. This is how the false self is born. The making of the pleaser. Childhood and the cost of attachment is oxygen to a child. We are biologically wired to seek closeness, to preserve connection at all costs. And when a child's emotional needs are consistently ignored, mocked, or punished, they quickly learn to exchange authenticity for approval. A child doesn't think, my caregiver is emotionally unavailable. They think, I must be the problem. So they start to overachieve, to anticipate needs, to smile when they want to cry, to agree when they ache, to object. The pain of self-abandonment becomes less terrifying than the pain of emotional abandonment. This trade-off, authenticity for attachment, is not conscious. It's survival. The psychology of the fawn response. Much attention is given to the fight, flight, or freeze responses. But there's a fourth survival strategy often overlooked: fawning. Coined by therapist Pete Walker, the fawn response refers to people who survive by appeasing. When faced with threat, especially emotional threat, they respond not with anger or escape, but with submission. They placate. They soothe others. They minimize their needs. Not because they're weak, but because their nervous system learned. Safety comes from being acceptable. For the fawner, harmony is everything, even if it means self-erasure. They become emotional chameleons, adapting instantly to the moods, expectations, and wounds of others. They often don't realize they're doing it. It's muscle memory for the soul. The shadow self, what we bury to be loved. What happens to the parts of ourselves that don't fit the pleasing script? They go underground. Our anger, our boundaries, our boldness, our truth. These become castaways in the formation of the pleasing self. We exile our needs to preserve the relationship. This exiled version of the self is what Carl Jung called the shadow, not because it's evil, but because it's hidden. In the case of the pleaser, the shadow often holds our no's, our truth, our unmet hunger for freedom. And as with all shadows, what we repress does not disappear. It leaks out, in resentment, in burnout, in passive aggression, in sudden, unexplainable tears. The cost of pleasing, invisible exhaustion. Living as a chronic pleaser is not sustainable. On the outside, these individuals seem agreeable, caring, dependable. They may be admired for their kindness, praised for their loyalty. But beneath that exterior lies exhaustion, emotional depletion, a quiet rage at being unseen. They may feel confused. Why do I feel empty when everyone seems to like me? Because they've traded being known for being needed. They've performed instead of participated. Pleasers often find themselves in codependent relationships, over-functioning at work, becoming the go-to crisis manager, the emotional sponge, the fixer of everyone else's pain, while their own quietly accumulates in the background. To be continued. In the second half of part 1, we'll explore why saying yes can feel safer than saying no. How to recognize your early conditioning in adult patterns. Steps to reclaim your authenticity without losing connection. The hidden roots of pleasing others. When saying yes is a survival strategy, why yes feels safer than no. At the core of people-pleasing lies a simple but devastating belief: if I say no, I will be punished, rejected, abandoned. This belief isn't born from logic. It's etched by experience. Children raised in volatile homes, where boundaries are seen as rebellion or independence is met with ridicule, learn early that no is dangerous. It disrupts harmony. It invites wrath or withdrawal. So, they file it away as a forbidden word. Even decades later, in adult conversations with lovers, friends, or co-workers, that same child part panics. If I disagree, Will they leave me? So they say yes. Even when it burns, they comply. Even when it depletes, saying yes becomes their shield against shame, their insurance policy against rejection. The invisible contracts. We create people pleasers often enter into silent, unspoken contracts in their relationships. If I'm agreeable, you'll never leave. If I carry your emotions, you'll see my worth. If I don't make waves, you'll finally love me. The other person may never agree to this contract. They may not even be aware it exists. But for the pleaser, it governs every interaction. These contracts aren't rooted in present reality. They're echoes from the past, unfinished business with our parents, replayed in our adult relationships. The result? Chronic disappointment, quiet resentment, a life of overgiving and under-receiving. The shame loop of pleasing. Beneath the surface of people-pleasing lies a loop of shame. You give too much. You feel exhausted. You blame yourself for feeling depleted. You try harder to be good. You give even more. You burn out again. The pleaser doesn't just suffer from saying yes, they suffer from believing they shouldn't feel pain for it. This double bind is brutal. If they set boundaries, they feel guilty. If they don't, they feel used. And because they've learned that worth equals usefulness, they hide their suffering. They hurt in silence, smile through fatigue, and cry, alone, if at all. Adult patterns, childhood scripts. Many pleasers are high-functioning. They're leaders, parents, caregivers. They look put together. But underneath the competence runs an old script. Don't upset them. Keep the peace. Don't be a burden. Be easy to love. These aren't just surface-level thoughts. They're deeply embedded beliefs. They shape every email, every dinner conversation, every pause before sending a text. You can spot them in the over-apologizing, the over-explaining, the fear of disappointing, the constant emotional scanning of others' moods. They aren't manipulative.
If this content is making sense to you, click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support.
They're conditioned, not broken, just shaped by survival. What we lose when we always say yes. Every false yes costs us something. Plans we never wanted to attend emotional labor. We didn't sign up for smiles we forced through gritted teeth. These add up. And what we lose isn't just time, it's identity. We lose energy, self-trust, the ability to hear our own intuition. We lose connection, not with others, but with ourselves. And without that connection, even love starts to feel like pressure. Healing begins with discomfort. The path to healing. People-pleasing begins in discomfort, because when you've trained your nervous system to associate peace with obedience, rebellion will feel like chaos, even when it's healthy. That means saying no will feel like cruelty. Taking rest will feel like laziness. Setting boundaries will feel like punishment. Asking for help will feel like failure. But these are growing pains, not evidence that you're doing it wrong, but that you're doing something different. Healing starts with noticing when your yes feels heavy. Asking, am I agreeing to avoid discomfort or from alignment? Sitting with the tension of someone's disapproval without immediately fixing it. Allowing your real self to speak, even if your voice trembles, from pleasing to presence. The opposite of pleasing isn't selfishness, it's presence. Presence means you show up as your whole self, not a filtered version that others find palatable. It's speaking when you're hurt. It's resting when you need to. It's allowing others to carry their own feelings. It's being gentle with others without betraying yourself. You stop performing and start participating. You stop being liked for your usefulness and start being loved for your presence. That shift is seismic. The path forward, rewriting the script. Healing from chronic pleasing is not a one-time revelation. It's a daily practice of rewriting the script. From, I must be good, to, I must be whole, I can't upset them, to, disagreement is not rejection, they matter more, to, we both matter, my worth is in doing, to, my worth is in being. These rewrites don't come easy, but every small act of self-loyalty is a step toward liberation. You are allowed. You are allowed to be loud, to be soft, to take up space, to need, to not perform, to disappoint people, to evolve, to choose yourself over and over again. You are allowed to exist without asking permission. Closing reflection, from performance to peace. The world may praise your helpfulness, your loyalty, your endless yes, but real peace doesn't come from applause. It comes from knowing that you no longer need it. When you stop chasing love through compliance and start choosing yourself in truth, that's when your nervous system begins to exhale. That's when you return home to who you were before the world taught you to hide. The hidden dynamics of self-sacrifice. When caring becomes losing yourself. When giving becomes a disappearance. It starts innocently enough. You want to help. You want to be there. You want to make someone else's life easier. This impulse, the instinct to care, to comfort, to support, is beautiful. It's the very essence of humanity. But what happens when that giving never ends? When your needs are always last? When your yes becomes the default and your no feels like betrayal? When you pour and pour until your cup cracks? This is the slippery slope of self-sacrifice. And it's often mistaken for love. The dangerous praise of selflessness. We live in a culture that romanticizes selflessness. She gives everything for her family. He never complains, no matter what. They're always there for everyone. At first glance, these sound noble, but underneath that admiration lies a quiet erasure. Because the more you disappear for others, the more people expect you to stay gone. You stop being a person with needs. You become a role, the fixer, the caretaker, the strong one. And roles, unlike humans, don't get tired. They don't break down. They don't cry at night or feel resentment. They just keep performing. The loss of identity through overgiving. Over time, chronic self-sacrifice doesn't just drain your energy, it dissolves your identity. You begin to forget what you enjoy, what you need, what makes you feel alive, what rest even feels like. Every decision becomes oriented around someone else's comfort. Every silence is filled with their story, not yours. Every emotion is processed with their well-being in mind. You shrink slowly, and you don't even notice because the shrinking is praised. How childhood teaches us to vanish. For many, the pattern of overcaring starts in childhood. If you had a parent who was emotionally overwhelmed, absent, or volatile, you may have learned that your emotions were too much. So you suppressed them. You became the good kid, the helper, the easy one. You learned that peace at home depended on your performance. That love had to be earned, that your needs came second, or not at all. These early lessons don't disappear when we grow up. They evolve. We carry them into friendships, workplaces, marriages. We say things like, I just want to be useful. I don't mind helping. It's fine, really. But deep down, part of us is still hoping, if I give enough, I'll finally be enough. The emotional burnout of overfunctioning. Overfunctioning is when you do more than your share, emotionally, mentally, physically, to keep everything together. You manage your partner's feelings. You cover for your coworker. You rescue your sibling from their mistakes. You become the emotional shock absorber in every relationship. At first, this feels powerful, indispensable, even righteous. But eventually, it becomes exhausting, resentful, lonely. You begin to realize, everyone turns to me, but who do I turn to? That's not connection. That's imbalance. The hidden dynamics of self-sacrifice. When caring becomes losing yourself. Why we confuse martyrdom with virtue. Somewhere along the way, we began to believe that love meant suffering. We inherited stories, cultural, religious, generational, that glorified the martyr. The mother who never eats until everyone is fed. The friend who drops everything to rescue. The partner who stays, even when it hurts. These stories shaped us. They told us, if it's hard, it's honorable. If it costs you, it must be real. If you don't struggle, it doesn't count. So we learned to stay in roles that drained us, to wear pain like a badge, to confuse loyalty with self-erasure. But love is not measured by how much of yourself you lose. Love, real love, expands you, not erases you. The fear beneath the overgiving. Under every act of chronic giving, there's a fear, sometimes several. Fear of being seen as selfish, fear of being unloved, fear of being unnecessary, fear of being left behind. So we overcompensate. We perform care like a ritual. We offer ourselves before anyone asks. We try to earn the space we already occupy. But this fear-driven giving doesn't create deeper intimacy. It creates imbalance. It attracts those who take without giving back. And it reinforces the belief that your worth is conditional. True worth requires no performance. You're enough even when you're not producing. The courage to set boundaries. Setting boundaries is not about rejection. It's about relationship repair. It says, I value this enough to protect it. I want this to be mutual, not one-sided. I want to show up fully, but I need room to breathe. But to someone used to your overgiving, boundaries feel like betrayal. They may guilt you, shame you, accuse you of changing. Let them. Your job is not to remain small so others remain comfortable. Your job is to be whole. From obligation to authenticity. There's a profound shift that happens when you move from obligation to authenticity. You start choosing because it's true for you, not because it's expected. You stop performing generosity and start living it. You begin to honor yourself as deeply as you honor others. This isn't about becoming cold, it's about becoming honest. You'll find that some relationships fade. That's okay. When you stop overfunctioning, the people who only knew how to use you will fall away. In their place will come those who want your presence, not just your service. Signs. You're healing. From self-sacrifice. You pause before saying yes. You no longer explain every no. You recognize when exhaustion hits and respond with rest. You feel less guilt when prioritizing your own needs. You stop rescuing people from problems they created. You choose connection over compliance. Healing doesn't mean you stop caring. It means your care now includes you. You can love and still choose yourself. Self-sacrifice told you, love means losing yourself. Healing whispers back, love includes you too. You can love deeply and still rest. You can give generously and still say no. You can support others and still expect reciprocity. This is not selfish. This is sacred. Reclaiming the self. A return to wholeness. Underneath the years of giving, beneath the chronic compliance, lives a self waiting to be remembered. She knows what she loves. He knows how to rest. They know how to say, this is enough. You don't need to become someone new. You need to remember who you were before performance became survival. That version of you is still here, still worthy, still whole. A closing invitation. From sacrifice to self-return. What if you no longer had to shrink to be loved? What if your softness was your strength, not your weakness? What if you could finally come home to yourself without apology? That is the real invitation of healing. To stop performing your worth and start living it. The hidden dynamics of self-sacrifice when caring becomes losing yourself. Why we confuse martyrdom with virtue. Somewhere along the way, we began to believe that love meant suffering. We inherited stories, cultural, religious, generational, that glorified the martyr. The mother who never eats until everyone is fed. The friend who drops everything to rescue. The partner who stays, even when it hurts. These stories shaped us. They told us, if it's hard, it's honorable. If it costs you, it must be real. If you don't struggle, it doesn't count. So we learned to stay in roles that drained us, to wear pain like a badge, to confuse loyalty with self-erasure. But love is not measured by how much of yourself you lose. Love, real love, expands you, not erases you. The fear beneath the overgiving. Under every act of chronic giving, there's a fear, sometimes several. Fear of being seen as selfish, fear of being unloved, fear of being unnecessary, fear of being left behind. So we overcompensate. We perform care like a ritual. We offer ourselves before anyone asks. We try to earn the space we already occupy. But this fear-driven giving doesn't create deeper intimacy. It creates imbalance. It attracts those who take without giving back. And it reinforces the belief that your worth is conditional. True worth requires no performance. You are enough even when you're not producing. The courage to set boundaries. Setting boundaries is not about rejection. It's about relationship repair. It says, I value this enough to protect it. I want this to be mutual, not one-sided. I want to show up fully, but I need room to breathe. But to someone used to your overgiving, boundaries feel like betrayal. They may guilt you, shame you, accuse you of changing. Let them. Your job is not to remain small so others remain comfortable. Your job is to be whole. From obligation to authenticity. There's a profound shift that happens when you move from obligation to authenticity. You start choosing because it's true for you, not because it's expected. You stop performing generosity and start living it. You begin to honor yourself as deeply as you honor others. This isn't about becoming cold. It's about becoming honest. You'll find that some relationships fade. That's okay. When you stop overfunctioning, the people who only knew how to use you will fall away. In their place will come those who want your presence, not just your service. Signs. You're healing from self-sacrifice. You pause before saying yes. You no longer explain every no. You recognize when exhaustion hits and respond with rest. You feel less guilt when prioritizing your own needs. You stop rescuing people from problems they created. You choose connection over compliance. Healing doesn't mean you stop caring. It means your care now includes you. You can love. The power of boundaries and reclaiming your voice. The importance of boundaries in self-care boundaries are often misunderstood. Many people see them as walls, barriers that separate us from others. But in reality, boundaries are bridges. They allow us to connect with others in healthy, sustainable ways while maintaining our own integrity and well-being. Healthy boundaries are essential for self-care. They act as emotional guards that protect our energy, our time, and our sense of self. They're a way of saying, I am worthy of respect, and I will respect myself enough to protect my energy. Without boundaries, we risk becoming overwhelmed by the needs of others. We lose sight of who we are because we are so busy trying to be everything to everyone else. We say yes when we mean no, and our sense of self becomes distorted. The cycle of overgiving and its consequences. For many, the inability to set boundaries is deeply tied to a pattern of overgiving. Over time, people-pleasing behaviors can develop into a chronic state of emotional depletion. Overgiving starts innocently enough, perhaps as a simple desire to help or make someone happy. But when overgiving becomes habitual, it starts to take a toll. It feels good in the short term, but it eventually leads to resentment, burnout, and disconnection. The truth is that overgiving often comes from a place of fear and insecurity. Fear of not being loved or valued unless we are constantly giving. Fear of rejection if we don't meet the expectations of others. So, we give, and give, and give. But in this process, we lose ourselves. When we fail to set boundaries, we give more of ourselves than we have to give. We start to feel empty. We start to feel resentful. And eventually, we may even feel invisible. Recognizing the need for boundaries. One of the first steps in reclaiming your voice and your power is recognizing the need for boundaries. It's not always easy, especially if you've spent years or decades putting others' needs before your own. To recognize where you need boundaries, ask yourself, do I feel drained after spending time with certain people? Do I feel resentment when I do something for others? Do I often say yes when I mean no? Do I feel like my needs are ignored or undervalued? These are signs that your boundaries may have been compromised. They are signals from your body and your emotions telling you that something needs to change. The power of saying no. Saying no is one of the most empowering acts of self-respect you can practice. It is not a rejection of the other person. It is a recognition of your own needs and limits. For many people, saying no feels like a betrayal or a failure. We fear that others will be upset with us or that they will think we're selfish. But the truth is that saying no is not only necessary for your own well-being, it is also an act of kindness toward the other person. When you say no, you are being honest. You are honoring your needs, and you are teaching others to respect your limits. Over time, this will lead to deeper, more authentic relationships. The inner conflict of saying no. The desire to say no is often met with an inner conflict. On one side, there is the part of us that craves self-respect, autonomy, and peace. On the other side is the fear of disappointing others, the fear of being seen as rude or selfish, and the desire to be liked. This internal tug of war is common for people who struggle with boundary setting. The fear of disapproval can feel overwhelming, especially when we've spent years trying to please others. But here's the truth. You cannot please everyone, and trying to do so will only exhaust you. Saying no is not about rejecting the other person. It's about rejecting the pattern that keeps you from honoring yourself. When you can say no with confidence and without guilt, you are taking back your power. You are affirming your worth. Building emotional independence. Emotional independence is the ability to regulate your own emotions and meet your emotional needs without depending on others to do it for you. It is the foundation of healthy relationships and self-respect. When we are emotionally independent, we no longer rely on others to define our worth or to make us feel validated. We learn to nurture ourselves, to honor our feelings, and to take responsibility for our emotional state. Emotional independence doesn't mean isolation or detachment. It means that we can connect with others without losing ourselves. It means we can love and care for others without sacrificing our own needs and desires. The role of self-worth in setting boundaries. One of the key ingredients in setting and maintaining healthy boundaries is self-worth. You can only set boundaries if you believe that you are worthy of respect and care. If you don't believe that your needs matter, it will be difficult to enforce your boundaries. Self-worth is not something that comes from external validation. It comes from within. It comes from recognizing that you are enough just as you are, and that your needs, desires, and feelings are valid. When you truly understand your worth, setting boundaries becomes easier. You begin to see yourself as deserving of love, respect, and care. You begin to realize that taking care of yourself is not selfish, it's essential. To be continued. In the next section, we will explore how to communicate your boundaries effectively without guilt, the importance of self-compassion in boundary setting, reclaiming your voice in relationships. Stay tuned as we continue this deep dive into creating healthier boundaries and reclaiming your personal power. The power of boundaries and reclaiming your voice. How to communicate your boundaries without guilt. Setting boundaries is a crucial act of self-care, but communicating those boundaries can be difficult. For many, the fear of rejection or disapproval makes it hard to express personal limits. But the truth is, boundaries are not negotiable. To communicate your boundaries effectively, be clear and direct. Use simple, clear language to explain your needs. Don't apologize for them. I need some time alone, right now. I'm not able to take on this project at the moment. Stay calm and confident. When communicating your boundaries, stay calm and confident. Don't let guilt or anxiety rush you into retracting or minimizing your needs. Be prepared for pushback. People who are used to your overgiving might push back. Stay firm and remember, their discomfort is temporary, while your well-being is essential. The importance of self-compassion in boundary setting. Self-compassion is one of the most important tools when learning to set and enforce boundaries. Without it, we may feel guilty or ashamed for taking care of ourselves, which leads to boundary violations. The practice of self-compassion involves being kind to yourself when you need to say no or take space. Understanding that setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's necessary for your emotional health. Reminding yourself that your needs matter just as much as anyone else's. Being compassionate with yourself allows you to set boundaries from a place of self-respect, rather than fear or guilt. It helps you accept that you are deserving of rest, peace, and emotional space. Reclaiming your voice in relationships. When you've spent years suppressing your needs and desires, reclaiming your voice can feel like an act of rebellion, but in truth, it's an act of liberation. To reclaim your voice, express what you feel. When you express your emotions honestly, you give others the opportunity to understand your true self. I feel hurt when you don't acknowledge my effort. I'm upset because I feel like my needs are always put last. Ask for what you need. Communicating your desires is essential for healthy relationships. Don't wait for others to read your mind. Be clear about what you need. Stand up for yourself. Don't be afraid to advocate for your own emotional needs. When someone oversteps your boundaries, speak up and assert yourself calmly. Reclaiming your voice requires courage, but it also requires a willingness to stand in your own truth, regardless of how others may respond. The relationship between boundaries and healthy intimacy. Many people mistakenly believe that setting boundaries creates distance or inhibits intimacy, but in reality, boundaries are the foundation of true intimacy. Intimacy thrives in an environment where both partners can be honest about their needs, desires, and limits. When you set clear boundaries, you make space for more authentic, respectful connections. Without boundaries, intimacy becomes one-sided. One person may end up carrying the emotional weight of the relationship, while the other continues to take without giving. By setting healthy boundaries, you are creating a space where both partners can show up as their authentic selves, where both voices are heard, and where mutual respect forms the foundation of connection. The role of self-worth in boundary maintenance. Maintaining boundaries is not just about saying no to others. It's about saying yes to yourself. It's about recognizing your own worth and believing that you deserve respect and care. When you value yourself, you begin to honor your own needs, feelings, and space. You understand that you are worthy of receiving love attention, and care, without having to sacrifice yourself. Self-worth strengthens your ability to enforce boundaries because it aligns with your belief that your needs matter just as much as anyone else's. The power of no in building healthy relationships. Saying no is a revolutionary act. It's an act of self-love and a form of self-respect that creates the foundation for more meaningful relationships. When you say no, you are teaching others how to treat you. You are demonstrating that you have limits and that those limits are to be respected. Saying no is not rejection. It's an invitation for both people to be their authentic selves without fear of losing each other. Living a life of authenticity and self-respect. Setting boundaries, saying no, and reclaiming your voice are all part of living authentically. They're acts of self-respect, acknowledging your own worth and acting in accordance with it. Authenticity requires being true to yourself, even when others may not approve. It means being willing to express your truth, even if it makes you uncomfortable. Living authentically also means letting go of the need for external validation. You no longer seek permission to exist or to take up space. You know that your worth is inherent. To be continued. In the final section of Part 3, we will explore how to navigate relationships with boundaries in place, the balance between self-care and connection, how to maintain your emotional independence while deepening your intimacy. Stay tuned as we finish this journey toward reclaiming your personal power and creating healthy relationships, reclaiming your authenticity and the path to lasting change. Breaking free from habitual roles. From an early age, many of us are shaped by the roles we are assigned, whether by family dynamics, society, or personal experiences. We become the caretaker, the peacemaker, the problem solver, or the responsible one. Over time, these roles become so ingrained in our identities that we forget what it feels like to simply be ourselves. We live up to expectations, whether conscious or unconscious. We perform, we give, we meet others' needs, and in the process, we lose sight of our own. These roles become like a script we follow, one that dictates how we think, feel, and behave. But breaking free from these habitual roles is one of the first steps toward reclaiming your authenticity. You are not a role. You are a person, a whole, complex individual with needs, desires, and dreams that may not align with the scripts you've been following. The journey to authenticity begins when you recognize that you are not limited to the role you've been given. You are allowed to grow, change, and evolve into who you truly are. The inner work of reclaiming your needs. A key component of reclaiming your authenticity is recognizing and honoring your own needs. For many, especially those who've spent years in people-pleasing patterns, it can be difficult to even identify what you truly need. We've been conditioned to prioritize others over ourselves, to suppress our own desires in favor of making others happy. But acknowledging your needs is the first step in healing. It's about learning to tune into your body, mind, and soul, and asking yourself, what do I truly need right now? What does my body need to feel safe and rested? What makes me feel alive, fulfilled, and at peace? Many of us have learned to push our needs aside, believing they are unimportant, or that meeting them is selfish. But the truth is, your needs matter. They are not optional. When you ignore them, you deny yourself the chance to live fully. Reclaiming your needs is about accepting that it's okay to take up space. It's okay to ask for what you need, whether it's time, energy, respect, or love. Healing the wounds of the past. The process of reclaiming your authenticity also involves healing the wounds of the past. Many of the patterns we carry with us, whether they involve people-pleasing, overgiving, or self-neglect, are rooted in experiences from childhood. Perhaps you grew up in an environment where your needs were ignored, invalidated, or punished. Perhaps you learned that love and approval were conditional upon your ability to care for others or meet their needs. These experiences shape the way we view ourselves and our worth. Healing begins when we address the wounds that have shaped our behavior. It involves acknowledging the past without allowing it to define our present, forgiving ourselves for the ways we've neglected our own needs, releasing the false beliefs that tell us we must earn love, approval, or worth. The past does not have to determine your future. You have the power to rewrite your story. Healing is not a one-time event. It is a continuous process of reclaiming your truth, piece by piece. Embracing your true self. To fully reclaim your authenticity, You must embrace your true self, without shame or guilt. This means accepting all parts of yourself. The parts that are kind, strong, sensitive, and even the parts that feel messy, imperfect, or vulnerable. For many of us, the fear of being fully ourselves is rooted in a fear of rejection or judgment. We fear that if we show up as we truly are, without the masks, without the roles, people will not like us or will leave us. But true intimacy and connection come when we allow ourselves to be seen, flaws and all. When we show up as our true selves, we invite others to do the same. This is where real connection happens, where love, respect, and authenticity are nurtured. Embracing your true self is about letting go of the need to be perfect and accepting that your uniqueness is what makes you valuable. The courage to change. The journey of reclaiming your authenticity requires courage. It requires the courage to change, to step away from the roles and patterns that have kept you safe, but small. It requires the courage to say no when you've always said yes, to speak your truth when you've always kept quiet, and to take care of yourself when you've always put others first. Change is uncomfortable. It's unsettling. It shakes up everything you've known. But change is also the gateway to freedom. It is through change that we evolve into the fullest, most authentic versions of ourselves. The courage to change begins with a single step: the willingness to embrace the discomfort that comes with breaking free from the past. Creating a new story, the path to lasting change. Once you've begun to heal and reclaim your needs, the next step is to create a new story for yourself, one that is grounded in authenticity, self-worth, and empowerment. This new story doesn't come from a place of fear, obligation, or sacrifice. It comes from a place of self-love, respect, and clarity. To create this new story, you must let go of limiting beliefs, challenge the beliefs that have held you back, such as "I'm not enough," or "I must be perfect to be loved." Reframe your past. See your past experiences as lessons that have made you stronger, not as burdens that hold you back. Focus on your future. Begin to visualize the life you want to create, grounded in your true self, and take actionable steps toward it every day. This new story is yours to write, and it is filled with possibility. To be continued. In the next section, we will explore how to implement lasting change in your daily life, the importance of self-compassion in the healing process, how to sustain your growth and maintain healthy boundaries long-term. Stay tuned for the next part of this journey toward true self-empowerment, reclaiming your authenticity and the path to lasting change. Implementing lasting change in your daily life. While the journey of reclaiming authenticity and self-worth begins with awareness and healing, true transformation happens when you make it a daily practice. Lasting change doesn't occur overnight. It's built gradually, with each small decision and consistent action. Here are a few ways to implement lasting change in your everyday life. Create new habits. Reclaiming your authenticity requires the creation of new habits, habits that honor your needs, that prioritize your well-being. Whether it's saying no when necessary, setting aside time for rest, or speaking up when you're uncomfortable, these small actions add up over time. Set clear intentions. Every day, set an intention to live in alignment with your true self. Make a commitment to honor your values, to respect your boundaries, and to be kind to yourself. Write down your intention and return to it throughout the day to keep yourself grounded. Practice. Self-reflection. Regular self-reflection allows you to check in with yourself and assess whether you're staying true to your goals. Ask yourself questions like, have I respected my boundaries today? Did I prioritize my needs? How do I feel emotionally? Celebrate your wins. Every time you stand up for yourself, set a boundary, or speak your truth, celebrate it. Each act of authenticity is a victory in reclaiming your power. Remember, consistency is key. Don't expect perfection, but commit to the process. Every step forward, no matter how small, is progress. The importance of self-compassion in the healing process. As you continue on your journey toward lasting change, self-compassion is essential. Healing isn't linear. It's messy, challenging, and full of ups and downs. You will encounter setbacks, moments of doubt, and days when you feel like giving up. This is normal. Self-compassion means treating yourself with kindness and understanding during these difficult times. It means acknowledging that healing takes time and that it's okay to stumble along the way. Here's how to practice self-compassion. Be gentle with yourself. When you make a mistake or experience a setback, don't berate yourself. Speak to yourself the way you would speak to a close friend who is going through a tough time. Acknowledge your struggles. It's okay to feel frustrated, discouraged, or exhausted. Recognize your emotions without judgment. You don't need to be perfect to be worthy of love and care. Embrace imperfection. You are a work in progress, and imperfection is part of being human. Release the need for perfection and embrace your flaws as part of your unique beauty. Practice self-kindness. When you're feeling down, practice self-kindness. Give yourself permission to rest, to recharge, and to take care of yourself. Self-compassion involves meeting yourself where you are, without criticism or shame. By practicing self-compassion, you are nurturing yourself through the healing process. You are creating a safe space for growth, and you are learning to love yourself fully, flaws and all. Maintaining healthy boundaries, long-term. As you continue to grow and evolve, maintaining healthy boundaries will be an ongoing process. It's easy to fall back into old patterns, especially if you've spent years neglecting your needs or overgiving. But the more you practice boundary setting, the easier it becomes to sustain it. Here's how to maintain healthy boundaries long-term. Consistency. Set your boundaries consistently, even when it's uncomfortable. Every time you say no or communicate your needs, you reinforce your sense of self-worth. Over time, it will become second nature. Stay grounded in your values. When you're faced with pressure or guilt, return to your core values. Ask yourself, does this align with my values? Does this respect my boundaries? Will this decision serve my well-being? Staying grounded in your values helps you maintain your boundaries, even when external circumstances challenge them. Recognize boundary violations. Early, pay attention to your emotional and physical signals. If you start feeling overwhelmed, resentful, or drained, it's a sign that your boundaries have been violated. Act quickly to restore them before they become more difficult to enforce. Practice self-advocacy. Keep advocating for yourself, even when it feels uncomfortable. The more you practice self-advocacy, the more you'll begin to assert your needs and desires without hesitation. Surround yourself with support. Surround yourself with people who respect your boundaries. Seek out relationships that nurture and support you rather than drain you. Healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, where both parties honor each other's needs. Sustaining your growth and inner peace. The path to authenticity is not a destination, it's a journey. The process of reclaiming your personal power and maintaining healthy boundaries is ongoing, and the more you practice, the more you will align with your true self. To sustain your growth and inner peace, make self-care a regular part of your routine. Nurture your emotional well-being through practices like mindfulness, meditation, journaling, or simply taking time to do what you love. You will face challenges along the way, but remember, you are on a path of self-discovery and empowerment. Every step you take toward honoring your needs and maintaining your boundaries brings you closer to the life you deserve. To be continued, we will discuss how to embrace your new identity with confidence, the long-term benefits of boundary setting, how to create and sustain a life filled with authenticity, self-worth, and inner peace. Stay tuned for the next part of this journey toward true self-empowerment.